Welcome back to the show, guys. Another episode of the Full Subjects podcast. We have Roman St.Germain on again because there's some political things going on that we had our political expert on to chat about. We were joking before. We're going to be talking the three T's: Trump, tariffs, and Trudeau. I will also be talking, just kind of recapping and summing up from our last episode that we had with you, just some of the provincial landscape as well. So yeah, thanks for joining us for another episode, guys. Lots going on, and we appreciate you guys tuning in to listen to our takes and what we think's going on, and to educate yourselves better. As always, this podcast is for informational purposes only. It doesn't constitute any legal, tax, investment, financial, or any other advice. It's not intended to cause or induce breach of any existing agency agreement. And let's get into it.
Right on. Well, I think it's a pleasure to be back. And when you say political expert, I appreciate that, but yeah, I'm not sure if I'm an expert, but no.
Take that off your resume.
Not yet,
yeah.
But thank you for having me back. So you did mention the BC provincial election, and we spoke about that election a couple of times on a couple of your episodes, coming into that election, and then of course the results. When we talked about coming into the election, I did mention that students across the province would be voting, and when we talked about the results, I didn't have those yet, and so I've brought those with me today, just to come full circle with that election. So. More than 180,000 students in elementary schools and middle schools and secondary schools across the province voted on the same day that the provincial election took place. I think, as I mentioned, my daughter, who's in grade 5, she cast her vote as well. She was very excited to do so. So 180,000 students voted, and the results of that election came out like this. The BC NDP took 36.7% of the popular vote. They were given 43 seats by the students. In real life, they got 47 seats, so less seats given to them by the students of BC than the electorate. The Conservative Party got 36.1% of the popular vote, and they got 40 seats, which is 4 less than they currently have, 44 seats. Both David Eby and John Rustad won their seats. The Green Party were given 10 seats by the students. They currently have 2, so the Green Party did very, very well in the student vote. Sonia First now won her seat in Victoria Beacon Hill, which, as we know, she didn't really win her seat in Victoria Beacon Hill. But it's just interesting to look at the results from these students. It's 180,000 people who will be voting in upcoming elections. Will they be taking, their thoughts regarding how they voted into the future? Does that bode well for the Green Party? What does that look like going into the future? That being said, my daughter, who's in grade 5, she said she just cast her vote the same way that my wife and I are casting our votes, and she said her friends were casting their votes the same way that their parents were casting theirs. So I'm sure there was an element of that, but clearly not across the board, because if that was the case, then it would just simply reflect what the provincial results were. So Greens did very well, and the others less so than the electorate gave it. So that's the BC provincial election final results.
You think there's anything to take from that?
I don't know. It depends on what kids think as they get older. Are they going to move away from the Green Party and go to one of the others, the Conservatives or the NDP or the BC United, depending on depending on what happens to them in the future. Kevin Falcon is still the leader of that party, and there's been some movements to have him removed as the leader, bring in a leadership race, flush out the BC United name, rename the party so that it's a sort of right of center party. Who knows where that's going, but lots can change in 4, 8, 12 years.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it goes. My daughter is 11. She can vote in 7 years. So we'll see.
Okay, awesome. And then I know you wanted to talk a little bit more provincial politics, but not necessarily in BC.
Okay, so the Ontario election is coming up. The Ontario election is on February 27th. So that's coming up very, very soon. And that's happening in the middle of the Liberal leadership race, right? So yes, we're all looking at the Liberal leadership race and wondering, who's going to be the next leader of the Liberal Party. It was certainly doing that here in British Columbia and across the country. But if you're in Ontario, where is your focus going to be? On the provincial race for premier, or are you going to be looking at the Liberal leadership race? The population of Ontario is a third of the population of Canada.
Right.
So I would say at the moment about a third of Canadians, and I'm not painting them all with the same brush, but a third of Canadians are probably focused more on their provincial race than they are on the Liberal leadership race. At the moment, it looks like Doug Ford is going to come out on top. Those are polls, obviously, so I'm just quoting from polls that could change tomorrow, but it looks like he's going to get another solid majority. Bonnie Crombie, who leads the Liberals, she's doing fairly well, and she was the mayor of Mississauga for a period of time, and so Mississauga being the 6th largest city in Canada is a huge, a number of votes that maybe she could shore up for herself. It all depends on what the party politics are throughout that city and other urban areas of Ontario. But just to bring up that election, because it is in the middle of this Liberal leadership race, which everybody seems to be focused on. Maybe they're not so much in Ontario.
Yeah, I think, segueing off of that, let's talk about what is going on with the Liberal leadership race right now and kind of what's happened and what's going on now, and you take it from there.
And before you start, sorry, what do Canadians,
what role do they play in this, if any?
In the Liberal leadership race? Only if you're a member of the Liberal Party. And I think the deadline to join the party was a few days ago. Don't quote me on that. It has passed, right, nonetheless. So if somebody was looking to vote in that race, then they could have registered as a member of the Liberal Party. But that is gone. So right now there are 5 candidates. They need to raise $350,000 in campaign funds over the next weeks. Today at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, each of those candidates has to have raised $125,000, and then they can move on to the next stage. When the debates are for the candidates, I don't know yet, but there has been some concern that raising $350,000 in a short period of time is challenging for some. Karina Gould specifically has come out and said, that's not fair. She has said that she feels she's going to hit that mark, but feels that it's a bit exclusionary to have that amount of money raised in such a short period of time. She's quoted the Conservative leadership race that they had to raise. It was over a longer period of time. Okay. So this is more money in a short period of time. This is a pretty short race.
Is there limits to where that money comes from?
Probably.
Yeah.
I can't quote what those are right now.
Fair enough.
And that we'll have a new leader of the Liberal Party on March the 9th.
March the 9th. Okay, so 5 candidates. Can you give us those candidates and kind of where you see things falling?
I think Mark Carney is going to be the next leader of the Liberal Party, just to cut right to that chase. But,
sure.
The 5 candidates are Frank Baylis. He's a businessman. He was a member of Parliament from 2015 to 2019. Ruby Dalla was also a member of Parliament. I think it was 2011 to 2017. She's from Brampton. I've met her before.
Okay,
if that bodes well for her. But
depends how she does.
Yeah,
ready to take all the credit or not.
Yeah, who knows? But Mark Carney, I don't know how much I need to say about Mark Carney, but Government Bank of Canada helped the UK through Brexit. At the moment he is the front runner to lead the party. Chrystia Freeland, previous deputy prime minister who stepped down from cabinet, who has turned her back on Trudeau. Was that too little, too late? I don't know. We can all decide. Then Karina Gould, who is young for that position. She's 37 years old. She's been in Parliament now for about 9 years. Burlington, Ontario. I think she's probably going to be a fantastic up and comer, but I don't think it's her time yet. I think her time will come. I think both Frank Baylis and Ruby Dalla are a little bit on the outside. I think it's going to come down to Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney. Okay. And there is concern that it needs to be a good race. It needs to be a race where there are debates and it's all done fairly, so that there isn't simply a coronation where simply people just say, okay, well, Mark Carney, you are the next Liberal leader.
Yeah.
At the same time, coming into a leadership race, every political party always needs to remember that in a leadership race, you want to debate, and you want to show how you're the better candidate than the others. But at the same time, you got to be careful that you're not undercutting the other candidates, because it just gives fodder for opposition parties to use later on.
Yeah, that's
One of the Liberal MPs who was in support of Mark Carney said, we're all wearing the same jersey. I like the hockey analogy. So we're all wearing the same jersey, right?
Canadian.
Yeah, very, very Canadian. Mark Carney's really leaning into the hockey as well. He's born in Northwest Territories, grew up in Edmonton, and so he's really been pushing on the hockey to show his Canadian roots, because he did spend time in the UK as well. But the idea that we're all wearing the same jersey is tremendously important, because you just don't want to make the others look bad and beat them up on stage. And I kind of view it as, you're coming into the third period, you're down by a goal, which, the Liberals may be down by more than a couple goals at this point coming into the third period. You've got 3 lines, 4 lines. Which line do you want out in the last couple of minutes? And who do you want to be the center on that line? And that's what it comes down to here is, yeah. So that's what,
well said.
From a strategic point of view, who am I going to put out on the ice, right? And who's going to be the strongest to score a goal on their goalie, Pierre Poilievre? So,
yeah, I like that.
There's an analogy we all get.
I feel like we need an animation of what you just explained.
Yeah, totally. Just Photoshop some.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did we get here? Why is there a leadership race?
First of all, I want to point something out. Roman called this on the podcast. He said, "I believe that Trudeau should step down," or you may even have said, "I think he will."
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to remember exactly what you said, but I know you was something along those lines.
My initial prediction in the summertime was that he was going to step down by the end of September, mid-October. And I said, there was a by-election that was lost in the Toronto area that looked very, very bad for the Liberals. And so immediately people started coming out saying, he needs to step down. He needs to step down now. And I said, no, I don't think that's strategically a good idea. You don't step down when you have a defeat. Then you're just defeatist. I said, he was visiting a lot of places throughout the summer, Justin Trudeau, and it almost seemed like a farewell tour of sorts. And I said, I suspect that it'll be October. That way, he's done a lot of good through the summer. He's gone to different parades and celebrations throughout the summer. He's, had his face out there, but the loss of that by-election is in the rearview mirror, right? And he can distance himself from that. He didn't step down as soon as he should have. And that caused a lot of problems. I think there was a lot of folks that were hoping that he would step down earlier and didn't. And so the knives came out. And not knives. I mean, these people all work together,
right?
But they came to understand that, hey, Poilievre is really surging, and we need to do something different. And Justin Trudeau's popularity has waned tremendously, and he's become the lightning rod for many, many things. And it's time to go after 10 years of being the prime minister, or coming up on 10 years. That's enough. You need to move on. Same thing with Stephen Harper, the conservative PM. You just can't keep being the leader. You need a fresh face there. And Poilievre has been surging. I'm not sure how he is doing right now. That's a different story.
Interesting.
So obviously that happened. He's stepped down. This Liberal leadership race is happening. What happens when Parliament returns? Everybody gets back in. Are we going to be, in another federal election? What are your thoughts? What are you thinking?
That's a tough one. So Parliament sits again on March the 27th. Parliament's prorogued until then, so nothing gets done. Obviously, the government is still in power; they can still do a few things, but they're viewed as weak. Although the threat of tariffs might have really
Yeah, I was going to say, good thing there's nothing going on worldwide that would affect the Canadian government. That is sarcasm,
One of our colleagues said to me the other day that tariffs are probably the best thing that's ever happened to Trudeau. And they may be right. So March 27th.
I mean to laugh, but it's funny.
Yeah, it's interesting how quickly things have changed. But and I won't yet reference Trudeau's speech. There's some people called it his Churchill moment. I think that's a big stretch. But he did pretty well. So March 27th, Parliament sits again with a new leader of the Liberal Party. Now, of course, at that time, there will be the same frustration or message, sent by some that, well, we didn't elect this man or woman to be our prime minister. But then we also need to remember that we don't vote for the prime minister or for the premier. We vote for the candidate in our riding. And we, in casting that vote, we're just voting for that person and they represent that particular party. So you can, on day one of a sitting party, they could change the leader of that party and, it could be have a new premier or a new prime minister. It doesn't really matter. That being said, people will still say, well, we didn't vote for this person. They shouldn't be our prime minister. It all depends on what the NDP and the Bloc want to do, really. I mean, the Conservatives can come out and say we're going to call a non-confidence vote, but they need the participation of the Bloc or the NDP to help them with that. And if they don't have that, and if the NDP and the Bloc are fine until the next federal election, and I think it's October 25th, then they'll just move forwards.
So do you think that we have an election before October?
You're asking for his bold prediction?
Yes, but
I don't either now, to be honest.
I think it's too close. Yeah.
Yep.
I think it doesn't make sense.
I don't think it makes sense either, but it all depends on the actions that they take in Parliament. Here's an interesting poll that I pulled this morning. And it all depends, okay? So once Parliament sits, what is the most important thing that Parliament needs to deal with?
So let me ask you this before we answer that question. So what happens between March 9th and March 27th? Because those are the 2 dates you talked about. March 9th, the new Liberal leader is now in power.
Pick out your wardrobe, change the signs, the name card on the offices and things like that. But
the winner of that election become the prime minister on March 9th? How does that work? Technically? Yeah.
Technically would. Now, if it's Mark Carney, he's not he's not a sitting MP.
Oh, okay.
Neither is Frank Baylis and neither is Ruby Dalla.
Okay.
And so that adds a different layer into it. So they'll need to have a by-election somewhere where this person can then get a seat.
Because they have to have a seat?
Yeah. To serve.
So they kind of have to push somebody out in order.
In Parliament. They just can't, be in Parliament. Same thing when
Interesting.
Jagmeet Singh took on the leadership of the federal NDP.
Yeah.
He wasn't yet in Parliament until he, gained himself a seat. Because they're still leading the party.
Right.
So it'll be a bit odd.
The concept of that is pretty interesting too, because you're basically drafting, you're basically picking somebody that's had a seat that you're wanting to insert this person in, and it's probably going to be a riding where, I don't know, he better get voted in.
Yeah, you got to pick the friendliest riding.
Yeah.
Right. So that'll be interesting. So you've just traded for a new player, top player in the NHL, but he's injured. He or she is injured.
Yeah.
Sit on the bench. Still have him though. Right.
Yeah.
Buy them out.
Yeah. So do you think they're already planning that? Like trying to figure out what that seat's going to be?
Probably.
Because you would think they would plan ahead for that,
I think
right?
they're assuming that it's going to be Mark Carney. I'm going on a limb saying that.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be the case.
So they're probably already planning where they're going to put him?
Or did they... Okay, this might be wrong, but didn't Trudeau say that he's not going to be going again in his riding? Would they give up that spot?
They probably would. You know what? I shouldn't say they probably would. I don't know who's going to run in that riding, but no, he's absolutely not running again.
Does he keep his seat as of right now, though?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So the interesting thing is once Parliament is reconvened, what is the most important thing that they need to deal with? Is it dealing with Trump and tariffs? And
it could be.
Yeah, it could be.
We don't know.
We don't know. Could there be another natural disaster or something? But at the moment, it seems like that is at the forefront of people's minds, dealing with Trump. And regardless of what party you're in, I wouldn't want to be the leader of any political party that takes over the government of Canada in October, because you're going to be dealing with this for the next
4 years, 3.5 years at that point.
I don't want to predict what's going on in a month. I don't know what's going to happen next week at this point.
So the political part. So there was a poll that was done by Nanos. It was done by close to 1,100 folks online over the phone between January 31st and February 3rd. They were asked a variety of questions. One of the questions they were asked was the political party most likely to have a positive negotiation outcome with Trump.
Okay.
So
a positive negotiation outcome, though.
So of the respondents, they said 31% conservative, 31% liberal.
Wow.
So split between those two parties, and then some others for the other parties, but 31% for each of those. So that's interesting. The other question that they asked was even more interesting, which is which politician would do the best job negotiating with the U.S. President Donald Trump?
That is a good question.
Okay, so this question had 40% for Mark Carney. It had 26% for Pierre Poilievre.
Wow.
And it had 13% for Chrystia Freeland.
That surprises me.
That's surprising. So of the respondents of this poll, this is all Canadians, but it was done coast to coast with 1,100 people. And polls aren't always correct, as we know. But interesting that they would say 31% for the Conservatives, 31% for the Liberals, but 40% for Mark Carney and 26% for Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know, but
That's very interesting.
I think, for some folks to say Mark Carney is not as well known. Of course, this leadership race is making him more and more well known. And, the fact that he announced his candidacy to lead a Liberal Party in Edmonton was, definitely by design. And the fact that he's leaned into his Northwest Territories roots and that he grew up in Edmonton, he played hockey there, is, really leaning into that part of it, so that there's a bit of a difference between him as a banker, because there's that perception as well. This guy's just a banker. He was, governor of the Bank of Canada in the UK, and so that has a particular perception. Mind you, he was appointed by the Conservative government at the time, but he's trying to sort of look a little bit different, and I think people are viewing him, and I say I think because I don't know, but looking at him as someone who has the moxie to go toe to toe with Donald Trump.
What's interesting, sorry, Roman, it's interesting that he focused on Alberta too, because Alberta's been very outspoken about not supporting Trudeau in general. So he's kind of leading into like, hey, I know that there may be an opportunity here. Right. So that's something.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I was looking to lead a Liberal Party, I wouldn't announce my candidacy in Toronto,
right,
or Ottawa.
Of course,
that would just be not the kiss of death, but you're better to do it out west. I mean, Chrystia Freeland's also from Alberta as well,
right?
So she can lean into that. But Chrystia Freeland, as competent as she is, and they're all competent, whether we agree with what they do or not. I mean, they're all fairly competent folks. She has been Trudeau's right hand man for years,
right?
And so that's gonna hurt her. But so I think folks are looking at Mark Carney as somebody who has the moxie to stand up and who has the credentials in the background to do so, and that maybe Pierre Poilievre doesn't. So
interesting. So it'll be interesting to see how that factors, assuming Mark Carney wins. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how that factors into the federal election.
Right. Ultimately. And I mean, to be honest, Pierre Poilievre is very good in the House of Commons.
Yeah.
He's very good and at the podium. He's a smart guy. I shouldn't say he's a career politician, but he's been in politics for a very long period of time, and he knows how to play the game. He knows how to play it very well. He hasn't had an opportunity over the last few weeks to be really front and center.
Yeah.
This lost a little bit of momentum because
yes,
of that.
I think he has lost momentum in that, and I think if I was Justin Trudeau, I would be very happy.
I was going to say, isn't that kind of part of the plan, though?
Yeah.
In a way, like that was kind of an additional benefit that they got from doing things this way.
Oh yeah, I mean, having the tariffs, the threat of tariffs, and having Justin Trudeau have the ability to go out and speak eloquently and say we're going to fight is great for him. It looks very good, and he's in the spotlight, and the Liberals in the spotlight. Even though those candidates are distancing themselves, they're doing a good job of making themselves very good, and they've kind of pushed Poilievre out of the spotlight,
right?
Which has got to be frustrating for him. But I'm sure he's loading up his weapons for
yes,
March 27th.
For sure.
No mistake.
I think with that too, like one of the things that we talked about our sales meeting here was, especially over the last week or two with this potentially incoming, really feels like Canada is all banded together. Like regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, it feels like everybody's like, oh, we got this other thing going on. And obviously we talk about the economic impacts of it. We talk, there's been reports, I think it was BMO that was talking about like if this actually happens, they're going to have to cut rates, consecutive amount, might have to have an emergency meeting, basically to offset what things are going to cost, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it kind of feels like everybody's banded together here.
And who's the leader of that?
Justin Trudeau.
It is Justin Trudeau. Well,
so is everybody banding together on this leader that
they don't. Yeah.
He's gonna come back and be like, just kidding, guys, we're back.
It's very, it was very interesting. That's for sure. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, I want to go back to your point before about Mark Carney being in that poll, being chosen as the front runner for who would do a better job of negotiating. He's also would likely get the first crack at it too, right?
Absolutely,
because Pierre Poilievre won't get a crack at it unless somehow an election's called right away.
Well, and I don't know the entire scope of everything he did. So, but he did help shepherd the UK through Brexit, which, as we all remember, was horribly messy.
Yes.
That was a terrible situation. And if he did that well, by all accounts he did, then going toe to toe with Trump, and I don't know, I shouldn't say toe to toe. I mean, they're not like boxing. They're not
well, Trump might want to.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it is a negotiation, and again, Trump's negotiating style is very different. But he may be able to do well in that forum.
Yeah. Sweet. Do you want to talk anything else about the 3 Ts? I think we covered most of it.
Well, interesting. Okay, so Trump, tariffs, Trudeau.
We talked a lot about those things.
Yeah, so Trump and tariffs. The tariffs may never come. They may be simply used, as I said, as a hammer over your head for you to do different things, which in this case, the creation of a border czar to deal with 1% of fentanyl crossing from Canada into the U.S. and immigration or refugees streaming across the Canadian border into the U.S., which is I find surprising.
Obviously where we're located, there's very frequently, like my experience with the border is, and from people I know, like a lot of people actually from here go and spend their money down there for things like groceries and going shopping, all that kind of stuff. I don't think people are like going across being like, I'm never coming home. This is where I live now.
Right. And but I mean, you got to look at it in how Trump looks at it, right? If I'm talking to you and you're a Trump supporter and I'm Donald Trump, and I say, we just beat Canada over the head and they've backed down, so there's going to be less fentanyl and migrants coming over their border. You're going to go, oh, great, that's a win. Is it a win? I don't really know if anything is won here or if anything has changed substantially. Yes, there's been quite a bit of money put towards border security and this creation of this border czar, which doesn't even have a job description yet. So it remains to be seen how that's going to play itself out. But I mean, he'll continue to do that. This is how Trump conducts himself. So that's fine. And then, of course, his pick for the U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer is ongoing, and we'll see where that goes. But I mean, he's being vetted by by Congress at the moment. I'm sure he's gonna be appointed.
Very well put. Yeah, I think like when I think of this tariff thing, I know we talked about this on Monday. I think what he's trying to do is basically saying, like, why are we getting goods and things basically done in other places to give other places jobs when maybe those jobs can be available for people here? Right. And I think the premise of that idea kind of makes sense in the sense of like give people the opportunity or incentivize or give reasons for companies to give the jobs or have the factories or all that kind of stuff here. Math checks out there, right? But what we kind of said on Monday was like, if your trinkets are getting made in a different country or whatever, does it make sense for, is the economics of that going to be the same if you have to have that job here and pay somebody minimum wage? Do people here want that job, or are they going to want to do something else? Like I understand like some of the, like, does that math check out for you? Like, does that make sense?
Well, every small community that you go to says, buy your stuff at this, homegrown store. Don't go to Walmart. Like it's nothing new. I mean, ever since I was a little kid, people always say, oh, buy local. That's what we've always said, right? On a micro level. This is just on a macro level. Let's keep jobs within our country. Let's keep industry within our country, and that's a great way of looking at it. Do you still need partnerships cross-border? Absolutely. And his way of negotiating, this clear winner, clear loser, good for the short term, absolutely, but for long term, I mean, this is not, he's not building a hotel, right? This is, ongoing partnerships that last for decades and centuries. And so do you want to cut someone off completely and completely ruin that not reputation, but that relationship? So, but yes, buying local is always a good thing. We talk about it all the time at the micro level. So at the macro level, absolutely makes sense. Totally. Yeah.
Sweet. Anything else, guys?
No. Well, if I can plug one thing, since we're talking about elections, because obviously, we talked about BC election, we talked the Ontario provincial election, the Liberal leadership race, the upcoming federal election in Canada. We should mention very briefly, I won't take too much time on it, the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board is having an election coming up on Thursday, March the 13th. And so there are 4 vacancies for director positions on the board. So I'll quickly just mention who is running, and we can leave it at that. Brian Budd, Paul Colwig, Kyle Grant, who's been on your show before, Pam Horn, Craig Mitchell, Brad Rickert, and me. Okay. I'll be running for a position on the board of directors as well. Manny Chadha and Gurdeep Sahota are continuing to serve the second year of their term, and running for officer positions are Gin Dillon for chair-elect and Rob Christensen for vice chair, and Tori Jacobson is moving into the chair position. And then Jeff Chadha will be the past chair. But that election's coming up, so any realtors listening to this podcast who are in the Fraser Valley should go to that AGM, and they should vote.
And Austin, is it only limited to realtors voting?
Yeah, members of the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board.
Okay.
So,
I want to two things. I've been very fortunate to cross paths with a couple of the people that you've obviously mentioned: Kyle Grant, Pam Horn in our office, Tori Jacobson used to be with is still with the brokerage I used to be with. Awesome, Rob Christensen I know as well. Great people. So some great candidates, great options. Take 2 minutes, brag about yourself. Why should people take the time to vote for you?
Yeah. Vote for me. Vote for who you feel is going to be the best, serving on that role. And there are 7 candidates who are running for 4 vacancies. They're all very good. The 6 that I'm running with, they're all very competent, very well-intentioned folks. There may be others who running from the floor, in air quotes. Those are folks who would state their intention of running for a position 2 weeks prior to the AGM. So there could be more than 7 running for those positions. But of the folks that are running at the moment, they're all very competent. And I'm sure that the folks who state their intention to run from the floor will also be very competent. So it's important to get out and vote, whether you're voting for that or a municipal election, provincial election, federal election, whatever the case is, get out.
Biggest takeaway, go and vote.
Go and vote. Sweet. There you go. Whether you're in grade 5 or you're a member of the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board.
Awesome.
Everything in between. Yeah. Well, thank you as always for your time. We appreciate it. Thanks for joining us for another episode, and we'll see you guys next week.
Right on.